Conservative Dennis Prager is saying bizarre things again. Like, talking about incest for some reason. Take a look.
Either the Bible's right or the left is right. They can't both be right. That's why you can't be a serious Jew or Christian and be a leftist. You can be a liberal, you can be a conservative, but you can't be a leftist. Anyway, none of you have a secular argument against it, and I don't blame you for that because there isn't any. There's no secular argument against adult incest. Brother and sister want to make love. What's your argument? That they're going to produce mentally retarded offspring? It's nonsense. It takes many generations of inbreeding to do that. There is no secular argument against adult consensual incest. There's a religious argument. Sex cannot enter family life. It's a big taboo. See, people think that we could live without the greatest source of wisdom and morality in the history of the world, the Bible. That's what they think. Even some secular conservatives think that. They don't realize they're living on the fumes of the Judeo-Christian value system.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot of words from Dennis Prager. All right. So let's break it down. The ridiculousness. There's no secular argument against incest. Oh, really? Why is this suddenly an issue? I just have to ask this. Why bring it up? Is there some sort of incest crisis going on in this country that I was not aware of? Is this something that's really important? In the scope of world events? Is this a pressing issue, Dennis? What makes you gravitate towards talking about these subjects and bringing this up and making those arguments? I just don't understand. I will never understand this person. Why? So, but anyway, let's analyze it. All right. So, leftism and the Bible incompatible, apparently, according to Dennis Prager. How so? So what's secularism, right? Because that's what he equates the left with, secularism. And by the way, secularists, I got news for you. They're not just people on the left. There are, I would say more libertarian, but I guess you could call them, conservative, people who believe in secularism. And really all that is, and unfortunately it's been taken over by the Christian nationalism in the Republican Party. I think over half of now Republicans, basically describe themselves as Christian nationalists, which is insane because what they're trying to do is to say, no, we believe that our fundamentalist religion should be part of the government, should be the government in the state, or I'm sorry, the government and the church should be the same. The church should be the state should run the church. And so that's messed up. But okay, secularism though, if you believe in secularism, you would know that it is not the absence of religion. It just means the absence of religion when it comes to government. So religion itself is going to be just fine. Again, you don't want, the government to, the religion to the church to run the state, but you also don't want the state to run the church. That's why we have a separation, a wall, if you will. I know you look, right-wingers, you love walls, right? You're always talking about building walls. Well, we got a wall between church and state, which you seem to love to try to knock down all the time. No, we have that wall for a reason. And so look, if you leave them separate, government's going to be just fine. Religion's going to be just fine. But he's making the argument that no, you can't have a society without an official religion ruling over it. Now, here's the thing. Yeah, you can. You can have a secular society with a bunch of religious people in it. In fact, that's what we've had for a long time. But he says that if you have that, well, people are going to do whatever horrible things that they want, whether it be, rape, murder, incest, etc. They're going to do that because, well, why not? They're not afraid of angering God. Well, there is a thing such as laws, right? And yet, funny how most of the country, and I'm talking the United States here, well, Christian, right? Well, it just so happens the majority of criminals in this country, people that do bad things, rapes, murders, etc., happen to be Christian. Weird. Oh, now, look, that's not because Christianity is inherently criminal. I'm not making that argument. That's the kind of bullshit argument that you would hear from right-wingers, for example, when they talk about other religions than Christianity. Mostly Islam. All right? But look, it's because if you have a majority of a country where the majority of the people are of one certain religion, then the majority of the people who are criminals are going to come from that religion simply because there's just more of them. It's simple mathematics. Not good arguments. These are very, very poor, bad faith arguments from Dennis Prager. But let's go to finally the incest argument. We're going to talk about incest.
Sexual anarchy.
All right. So Prager is saying, look, you have to have a religion because that's the only preventative from people fucking their sisters. I'm like, he's making that argument. I'm not making that argument. He's making that argument. What are you doing? Like, that's the thing, though. Why would you make that argument? It doesn't make any sense. And so, look, here's the thing. Religious people have, religious people have done incest. I mean, let's talk about Rudy Giuliani. He marry his first cousin? I mean, seriously, though, history is also filled with monarchs that keep it in the family. Now, why did they do that? Well, there's a couple of different reasons, right? Mostly wanted to protect their own wealth, of course, keeping it real. But I'm guessing that some of them believed in this weird sort of keeping their blood pure kind of thing. And now it feels like we're talking like a House of the Dragon or a, Game of Thrones episode. But really, I mean, they made that argument. And by the way, it's not just, Christians. It's, monarchs, leaders in lots of different places all over the world would practice this. Leaders, because they believe that their blood was part or had been descended from like gods or God or religious figures when it comes to Christianity, religious figures in the Bible, right? I think I forget exactly which the British crown believes that it's descended from, but they do believe in that divine right. And so, yeah, back in, in the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, where religion ran everything, by the way, you had a lot of sexual relationships, marriages, etc. So, I mean, weird stuff. Now, there's another thing, of course, that contradicts him, and that's science. I mean, let me get back to the quote that he said here, okay? What was it? Yeah, the casual ableism part. What's your argument that they're going to produce mentally, the Arsler offspring? That's nonsense. It takes many generations of inbreeding to do that. Okay, well, again, there's some truth and there's a lot of not truth. So the one thing that he, gets right is, yes, long periods of time, there are genetic changes as a result of incest that, I can't believe I'm talking about this. Again, this is the world that we live in. But those that are incredibly detrimental, harmful, usually take a few generations to show up, right? So, okay, he's right about that. But there's another thing that he neglects to mention, and that's the risk of birth defects that are much higher in those types of relationships. Now, some defects, not necessarily harmful, like blue eyes, right? From both parents' recessive genes. Okay, that's a harmless one, but there's also very harmful ones. And by the way, it's not just you get one and then the others don't happen. No, you can get a lot of these things in conjunction, like developmental disorders, cystic fibrosis, premature birth, cleft palate, heart conditions, and of course, just death. Many, many, many things, many terrible things that can come from this, from these pairings. So those are good scientific reasons not to do so. And hey, guess what? Secularists, we believe in science, right? The other reason, of course, is why would you do that? Why? 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 No normal people think about that. No normal people think, oh yeah, I'm going to pair up with my sister, first cousin, whatever, right? No, no. Why would you want to do that? And look, I know he talked about, okay, so he puts out a straw man of like, oh, the people that are brother and sister consensual having these relationships. Again, he was probably watching Game of Thrones. That's the only situation like that I could see. Other than that, I mean, this does not seem to be a widespread phenomenon. But most of the times where you have incest, right? It's usually the product of molestation, which is not consensual at all. It is a crime. It is a violation of an innocent person. There's nothing consensual there at all. You don't need a religious argument to be against any of this. What Dennis Prager seems to avoid doing is pointing out how people don't need this religious doctrine, the threat of eternal punishment, damnation, etc., burning in hellfire for the rest of your life, etc. I know he's Jewish, but that's the Christian faith, right? Which he seems to like cape for a lot. You don't need any of that to be a good, decent human being. So look, the fact that they seem to believe this, it does say a lot, about the people that are making these arguments. Look, me personally, and again, I think 99% of the people don't need a threat of, the divine threat of damnation to not rape and murder and pillage your way across the earth. Okay? Because it's wrong. Because it hurts people. I don't believe in raping and pillaging and murdering, right? No, I've never had that inclination. And I'm really worried when people say, well, gee, I would do that if it weren't for the Bible. Maybe you're not that good of a person to begin with if you're thinking about that. Making that argument. But and by the way, again, this is just another weirdo bad faith argument from a bad faith actor trying to, claim that you cannot be a person of faith. And even though I'm not, I know plenty of people who consider themselves to be on the left who do have faith and happen to be more in line with the actual religious teachings of Jesus than anyone like Dennis Prager.